I think my sister and I get our personalities from our grandmother. And my grandmother was a very strong woman. She was in management at Belk Department Store when women weren't managers. And she was highly, highly respected. And she was not only she was the matriarch of our family, she was the leader of our family. And my other grandmother was very instrumental in Governor Richard's campaign back in the day and was a lady of the year and woman of the year in Paris. So really strong females. And I think that's where it comes from, that like rule number one is we are going to win. And the only question that comes after that is how we're going to do it. But like, we're going to win. How do we do it? That's the fun part, but we will win. And that's like the passion that drives everything, is winning.
Welcome to the McKinney Podcast, the show that celebrates what makes McKinney unique by nature. This podcast exists to spotlight the people, the organizations, and the events that shape our great city. You can count on every episode to tell a compelling story and help increase your awareness and perspective on what's happening around McKinney. Your hosts for this fun-filled adventure are Fred Mahusay, owner of FredShots Photography, and James Jenkins, CEO of RiskWell. Connect with us on YouTube and on our website, McKinneyPodcast.com. Now, let's get into it. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the McKinney Podcast. We celebrate what makes us unique by nature. Our friend and collaborator, Mr. Fred, had a prior engagement before we set this recording day. He's down in Allen, and he will be joining us in a couple hours. So we'll just look forward to catching up with him now. Our guest for this episode is Mr. Jason Burress, the CEO and founder of Burres Law, as well as the creator of the Rook, which is, I'm not even sure what to call it, a social club?
I would call it a members community.
A members community.
Yeah.
There you go. He's also very active in the nonprofit community, very generous with his resources. Jason Burress, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very proud to be here.
Yeah, man. It's definitely nice to have this name checked off our list. When we had our very first list back 2 years ago when we started this, we had about 50 people on that list, and you were there. And it's just, for some reason, it's taken us this long to finally connect with you. But man, I'm super glad you're here.
Yeah, I remember there was a message I received, and I didn't know your name at the time, but I remember talking a little bit on the whatever message platform it was, but it just didn't come together. So I'm glad we're here now.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on. I'm not surprised it didn't come together. That was even before the Rook, wasn't it? That was back in early 24.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was 2 years ago for sure.
Yeah.
It was a while back. And then, of course, I heard your name all over the place. So, yeah.
It's kind of crazy how these things kind of have their own life cycle, right?
Well, and McKinney, too. It's like if you want to get plugged in, you can get plugged in to this town.
Amen. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. So we always like to start with background. You know, a lot of folks see your name around town. You're very visible within the law community. You've got advertisements, and you're very easy to find. What's the Jason Burress background story? How in the world did you choose the path that you're on? What were your early years, family, college, whatever you want to share with us? Your backstory is always up to you.
Yeah, born and raised in Paris, Texas. My grandparents were my very best friends. I've spent 1,000 nights at my grandparents' house. I have the honor of owning my grandparents' home today. My lovely wife, who heads Burress Design Group, just did a 5-year restoration. My little baby footprints are on the back porch of that home, and so
Wow.
It's enormously important to me. Paris is important. So wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, if I'm in trial, if I'm at a community event, if I'm whatever I'm doing, I always carry the Paris flag and try to honor my grandparents, our foundation. You look right on the front page and you'll see the scholarships are dedicated to my grandparents and then my wife's grandparents, and so it really starts with Paris for me. It starts with a very, very middle-class raising, and it starts with a super strong grandmother really two super strong grandmothers, but one was, always my best friend. That's where it begins. And of course, I have a wonderful mother, very loving mother, and she happens to now live about a mile from us here in McKinney.
Wow.
I have a great sister, and it's just I just have a great family.
Love it. That grandparent relationship is something special, isn't it? I think it can be as impactful as a parent relationship in some cases.
Yeah, my in-laws come and stay a lot with us, and we may joke between us guys that, oh man, the in-laws are coming again. But in reality, I love it because I love it for my kids. I love that they have had the same opportunity to have such closeness with their grandparents. And I see my in-laws who absolutely love to attend baseball games and cheerleading functions. And of course, it just reminds me of what I always had.
Yeah. I mean, speaking personally, it has been just the absolute greatest joy to have Allison's parents. They lived in Waco and they moved up here to McKinney to be closer to family. And they're deeply involved in our family and our kids' lives. I mean, I feel like I won the in-law lottery. I don't know what it is with that joke that guys always say. I was like, oh gosh, mother-in-law's coming around. It's like,
well, it's always a funny, line of humor, and I'll engage in it. But in reality, my wife would be the first to tell you that I love when they come. I love that they do come. I love that my kids have that opportunity, and I would never discourage them from coming.
Absolutely. I always have to smirk a little bit when someone makes a comment like that. It's like, I don't know if you're joking or not, but if you aren't joking, I feel a little sorry for you because I just adore my in-laws. Both of them are wonderful people. So that's so cool that you have that relationship, what you had growing up. You get to continue seeing that, that kind of relationship with your kids and their grandparents. That's wonderful.
There's nothing like it.
Family and community. It's really important to you. I see you around town. I see what you're into, and a little bit of fanboying, just, game respects game, that sort of thing. It's wonderful to see kind of where you choose to get involved and deploy your influence and resources for the greater good. How did you decide on law? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I didn't know any lawyers back home. I didn't, wasn't raised in the law, didn't have anything that would have projected me in that direction. The truth of the matter was, at the end of my college experience, the bachelor's degree, right before I was going to walk the stage, my grandfather had a very significant heart attack. And he had fought in the war, and he had his first major heart attack when he was 28, and he spent over a year in the hospital in Dallas, and when they were, back home. So imagine what that would have been like. Well, so he was 70 and had a major heart attack, and that was right as I was graduating from what was then called Southwest Texas State University. So I spent the 3 weeks after graduation in Medical City, Plano, with my grandmother, trying to get my grandfather through that, and did, but I kind of missed the whole recruiting thing. So long story short, a buddy of mine needed some help in Mount Vernon, which is a town of about 2,000 in Northeast Texas.
Yep.
And I'm a 23-year-old banger of a guy at that point. I'm built really well. I'm good looking, and there are no girls in Mount Vernon, Texas. And so I lived on a lake. I was the only person on the lake without a boat, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just creating this picture for you that was kind of lonely. And I'm sitting there and ultimately thinking, okay, this is not where I'm supposed to be. What would get me out of this, and what would be something that could propel me forward? And so I started looking at, it was education. I came to that conclusion pretty quick, and it was, is it an MBA or is it a law degree? And back in those days, the internet was just now available to the masses. And so that was year one of me doing anything on the internet, and started searching and looking at things and what it would take, and knew what I did in college and had pretty good grades, and found out about the LSAT for the first time. So ultimately picked law over business because it's, number one, it seemed like a more sure thing. Seemed like you could go get your MBA and come out with just as bad of a job as you started with. With law, it didn't seem that way. So it seemed like a path out of where I was. And then started looking at the other end like, wow, I could really change lives here too. And I couldn't really see that with business. So I thought I could do well financially. I could have a family and do well, but I could also do a lot for others, and started looking at that aspect. And that's what moved me in that direction. Moved from Mount Vernon to Dallas after a year, took the LSAT prep course, took the LSAT, worked here for 3 years to get financially ready, and then went back to school.
Okay. There's a few more girls in Dallas than there is in Mount Vernon, right?
Yeah, Dallas was, it was nice to move to Dallas. I'll just say it was nice to move to Dallas.
Yep.
Everybody does a swim through the Village. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Village, but I did a swim through the Village as well. And
it's right off of 75, right?
It is, and met a lot of good friends. And a lot of those people are still my friends today. My first leasing agent, and we dated for a very short time, but we were friends mainly. She's still my friend today after all these years. And
wow.
Which I think is important with life anyway. So a lot of the friends that I made back in the 80s and 90s, they're still my friends today. We still get together. We still talk. It's just great.
I love it. That friendship was different before the internet. You know, it
was.
The bonds were a lot deeper. It feels like more enduring.
For
Because
sure.
you had so much FaceTime. Like there wasn't, oh, let me text you. Let me send you a Facebook message. If you were someone's friend, you were literally face to face with them. I feel like this generation of kids is kind of lost that. I almost feel sorry for them.
I agree. All those people that we met in the 80s and 90s, we went to dinner together. We met at the pool. You just spent time, and it wasn't just, text and that type of thing.
Where'd you go to law school?
SMU.
Okay. I was wondering. Cool.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was good. I mean, I am not, one of these blue bloods that, they go to Yale undergrad and then that wasn't my path. My path was, hey, this is a normal IQ. This is somebody who is built to be a production supervisor at Campbell Soup. I mean, I had counselors tell me that I wasn't college material, but then I had one counselor, Mrs. Vihi, who actually taught me in junior high, and she pulled me in her office and said, no, you are college material, and you're going to do great things. And she was a huge encourager. So my path was a little bit different, but in SMU realized that. And though I had the grades and I certainly had the LSAT score and got a little scholarship, I didn't have the same kind of name as some of the other kids that had the presidential scholarships and so forth. And I took that personally and I think did very well.
There's something interesting about people you come across when you realize that they have a chip on their shoulder because of something that's happened in their past, or they've been chronically underestimated their whole life. And those kind of people tend to overachieve as adults, those that have, a more challenging, childhood where, people say they'll never amount to much, I've never understood why a teacher or someone would tell someone you're not college material. It's like, isn't that the opposite of what you're supposed to be as an educator, an encourager and an inspiration to these young people? But yeah, that was part of your story, huh? You came into it with a little bit of a, I'm going to prove myself attitude.
So I think my issue was, I think I really had ADD, but it was never diagnosed. So I was the kid that would be in class and 3 minutes in, my mind's a million miles away.
Yeah.
And, I think most boys suffer from diminished capacity anyway. It takes a little longer for their brains to develop. So maybe that was the case too. But mainly I think it was undiagnosed ADD. And it took me until I was about 20 to work out of it, to where all of a sudden I could actually sit down and focus for 50 minutes or an hour straight. And that made a giant difference. I think if I would have had the medication or had some better coping tools, I would have been a lot tougher to beat early, because I always had the aspirations to do really well. I just couldn't do the follow through because of that issue in my brain.
No, that makes sense. I've never been formally diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, but as an adult, I realized that I had this problem, and my doctor was gracious enough to let me try some of the Adderall class of drugs, and ended up getting off of it a couple of years later because of unwanted side effects and attitude, like emotional state, behavioral changes. Like coming off of it at the end of the day, I was a really unpleasant, cranky person. But there's something about that moment when you realize, oh, wait a second, this is actually a superpower if I harness it correctly. Because it's almost like laser beams come out of your eyes, right? When you're able to overcome that. And I bet that came in handy at SMU Law. Like SMU is a top flight law school. It's not quite Stanford or Harvard, but it's really far up the list of quality law schools here in your backyard. That must have been great for you.
Yeah, it's been a top tier, what's called a top tier law school ever since I've been tracking it, which was 1997. So it's always been a top tier law school. It would be ranked second in Texas. And part of that is because it's way more expensive. But the connections that you make, to me, bring it from a top tier, which is top 50 law school, to probably a top 20 or top 25 law school.
Nice.
That's what I feel about it. And I'm not some SMU homer, but I think it's a very, very good school, and I think the networking is tremendous.
It, as silly as it sounds, because looking back on it now, I was like, why would you even consider that? There's no need for that. But I for a couple of years, I was looking at doing an executive MBA through the Cox Business School. And the main reason is I don't have any formal business background at all. And I've been an entrepreneur and business owner for 13 years. And, I recognized, wait a second, there's a deficiency in my skill set here. And the network at the Cox School of Business was the most attractive thing. It's like, well, if you have an MBA from SMU, the letters after your name aren't nearly as worthwhile as the network that you build while you're there. And I imagine it's probably the same it's Dedman, right? That's the name of the school?
I never call it that, but it's technically the Dedman School of Law.
Okay. Yeah, just SMU Law. It's easier.
Yeah, I think it's a weird word and it's a weird name, and I just would never call it that. But they call it. They paid a lot of money for it to be called that.
I'm sure that family is annoyed to hear you say that.
Yeah, they are very annoyed if they're listening.
Oh man. So you chose injury law, right? That's your specialty. Out of a couple of dozen different flavors of practicing law, at what point in your career, in your studies at law school, did you start to lean towards injury as your desired specialization?
I never did.
Okay.
I never did. My story is, if you look at my story, it's all about relationships, nothing else. And so typically, if you have good grades, the year before you graduate from law school, you will know where you're going to work. And I did these internships and kind of had a good run of bad luck. Had a couple that imploded. Like I'm there, like Val Hamilton was one. And we had 3 floors in a giant building in downtown Dallas. And all of a sudden, by the end of the internship, we have 1 floor. And the firm was imploding. There was another firm that was kind of doing the same thing. And then I clerked for the Court of Appeals, and you're going to come out and get a $50,000 job. And the Court of Appeals is very prestigious, and I had an offer to work there. But I mean, I didn't want to make $50,000.
No.
So I interviewed with some other firms and had offers, and there was all white collar business litigation, business transaction type law. Everybody you interview with is in a suit. It's as stuffy as you could ever imagine. And then I go interview with Kyle Dreyer. Kyle Dreyer is already a legendary attorney at 40 years old, 41 at that time. That was 2001. He's 66, so whatever the math is, maybe he's 41 at the time. He's a legend. He's the national trial counsel for General Motors, ConocoPhillips, Thomas Built Buses, Peterbilt. He's got this group of clients that's unbelievable. I go interview with him. He's in jeans, just a cool button-down shirt, and he's carrying a baseball bat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's who I want to work with.
Right.
And they were offering $17,000 less money than one of the other firms that was stuffy and all that. Well, I just immediately hooked my wagon up to him.
Wow.
I just said, I want, that's where I want to be. And I want to be with somebody like that who he would go to Stars games. He would go to Mavs games. He was just a community person, if that made sense.
Yep.
And cool. And everybody there wore jeans. And it was such a great law firm. And he was the big rainmaker at the law firm and the greatest trial lawyer I've ever seen. And what's so interesting about that is he retires from the firm that he started, giant defense firm, when he's 59. And 2 years later, he works with us. And he still works with us. And, you know, he's a professor at Baylor Law, but he works with us. And so 25 years of friendship.
Wow.
And I work for him. Now he works with us. And it just couldn't be better.
And I just, knowing you and the way that I see you do things, I imagine that is just the greatest joy that you have that relationship with someone who I would imagine is tremendous impact on your life, personally, professionally, and a leader, a mentor, whatever, that you get to have this relationship with him at your firm. That's got to be the coolest thing for you.
He's the greatest attorney I've ever seen. And everybody at my firm would tell you the same thing. He's the greatest anybody's ever seen. And the fact that he is a part of our team and smiles and comes in and says, man, I just want to tell you, I love being here. I love practicing law here. Like, it just means everything.
Now, for the folks out there listening that may not be familiar with what makes a great attorney, let's unpack that for a second. Let's pause and double click on that. What makes Kyle a great attorney in your mind? What do you define that as?
Very, very high intellect, exceptionally great judgment, a memory that is not second to many. There's someone that we both know who was a legendary lawyer who was his partner, and he would say Daryl had a memory that nobody could match. But I mean, like, Kyle has got all those things. The way he speaks, the positions he takes, it just, when you see him argue, like we're arguing in front of the Court of Appeals, and they're going to have the arguments in a couple weeks at UT Law. And Dreyer's going to argue that for us. And I mean, there's nobody that you would want to argue that otherwise, because whatever he says, it doesn't matter. He could be reading the phone book. You're nodding yes, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah, he's tried cases in virtually every state, and he's tried, so many 6-week trials and 2-month trials. And I mean, he's a road warrior. He's a killer. There's no fear. Like, he's the best. Someone
like that just doesn't get rattled at this point.
No, he never got rattled. I mean, he's an exceptional attorney.
Yeah.
And he should have fired me, because one time we were yelling, and he's got his bat, and I'm yelling at him like, we're not doing it this way. We're getting ready for a trial. And we're yelling at each other, spits flying. And he should have fired me, but he didn't. And so that's also a neat part of the relationship, is I've always been able to be very candid.
Where's that passion come from in you? What's your driving force? But there's everything I see you do it big. Like, it's obvious that you deploy your talent, your effort very intentionally. And I'm just curious, what's behind that? What's the force behind what you're doing?
I think it's my grandmother, because my mom has a totally different personality. But I think my sister and I get our personalities from our grandmother. And my grandmother was a very strong woman. She was in management at Belk Department Store when women weren't managers. And she was highly, highly respected. And she was, not only was she the matriarch of our family, she was the leader of our family. And my other grandmother was very instrumental in Governor Richard's campaign back in the day, and was a lady of the year in Paris, woman of the year in Paris. So really strong females. And I think that's where it comes from, that like rule number one is we are going to win. And the only question that comes after that is how we're going to do it. But like, we're going to win. How do we do it? That's the fun part, but we will win. And that's like the passion that drives everything, is winning.
Yeah. I could see that your clients would want you to have that attitude as a professional? I'm guessing plaintiffs. You're mostly on the plaintiff side, right? In injury. Yeah. So as a litigator, that's a critical ingredient, right? You almost have to have that killer instinct where you're ready to step on the gas at a moment's notice.
It's awesome. In Dreyer, you wouldn't, this is not a pick at you, but when lawyers say that, when they, I'm a litigator and this and that, Dreyer would look at you and tense up his lips and he'd go, "You're not a litigator, you're a trial lawyer. There's a difference." And like, wow. And it was on our website, like, we are not litigators, we are trial lawyers. And it's just like you learn that, and you learn like we are killers. Like,
what's the difference between a litigator and a trial lawyer?
A litigator pushes paper. A litigator, I have a hearing next week with a litigator with this giant firm, and he pushes paper, and we're going to go have hearings to have hearings. That's over a procedural, technical thing that doesn't matter. Ultimately, we're going to get what we want, what I want. We're going to get it. And we may have to do one more step to get it. But a trial lawyer would go, "This doesn't matter. This doesn't change anything. We're not going to go bill the client for this crap." That's the difference. The litigators want to bill the file. The trial lawyers want to win the case.
Yeah, they're just scaling billables whenever possible.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that plays into probably my final question about the law side of things before we talk about more perhaps interesting things to some people. How have you overcome the stigma in our society of kind of the ickiness of personal injury trial attorneys? What's the Jim Adlers and Brian Longcars of the world, the ambulance chasing people that there's just a distasteful kind of energy about them. How have you identified that and overcome that in Burress Injury Law? And obviously you guys don't operate like that. You don't advertise like that. You don't have that kind of reputation. How have you excelled beyond your peer group in that way?
I'm highly embarrassed by what those guys do. I know there's a lot of different ways to climb the mountain and get to the top of the mountain and all say hello to each other, but it's not the way I think it should be done. There's actually a lot of illegal activity happening. It's called case running. The term for it's barratry. It's highly illegal. They just added some more teeth to it, and it's like a $50,000 fine. But these guys are they're having crash reports sent to them by dispatch, and then they're deploying themselves or investigators out to hospitals. It happened on Monday. We had a lawyer in Adriatica hand-delivered a case to us that was a friendship, and that there's two lawyers that have been in the hospital room dropping their contracts off to get them to sign. And it's highly illegal, but like that's what so it's not just like red-faced attorneys standing on top of 18-wheelers with a big hammer in their hand. It's illegal activity that we're dealing with. And so, I think what I did, I just know I'm different than that. And so to me, it was like, where did we put our flag up? And we put our flag in McKinney, where Dreyer so many years ago said, do not start a firm in McKinney, Texas. Are you an idiot? And I was like, what are you talking about? You're just mad because I'm leaving. He's like, no, that's the seat of Collin County. Collin County is a bottom 5 venue in Texas for personal injury. Like, this. You're my, sergeant at arms for all these years. And I'm like, well, that's fine, but we're going to do it different. And the people of Collin County, they need good lawyers. They need good lawyers to finally be here and be the cavalry. And that's what we're going to do. And so I think knowing where we put the flag down in the place where you would never want to start a plaintiff's personal injury practice, and not only surviving, but thriving, like that really set the tone, because nobody wanted to be here. But I wanted to be here.
Well, and I think it speaks to the way that you do things when your name has become synonymous with personal injury law in McKinney. Like, I wouldn't want to be anybody else trying to plant a flag of personal injury law in McKinney, because this is Burress territory.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you've spent, 25-ish years making that reputation sticky and building the relationships, building the community involvement, the engagement, the recruitment of all the people that make things happen in McKinney. I mean, I could list off a dozen different names of the people that actually make this city happen. And you're on a first name basis with all of them because of the way that you do business, the way you carry yourself. And it's just a testament to you being you, I guess. I don't mean to sound like I'm a fanboy, but just got a lot of respect for the way that you do things and the way that you're so humble about the giving back through the foundation, through philanthropy, the way that you make things happen behind the scenes, but you do it quietly. Like that's a really admirable thing you got going on, man.
Well, I appreciate it. But, when I got here, there were people that helped me.
Yeah.
Ray Eckenrode helped me. Don Day helped me. There are, 6 or 8 people that helped me and said, hey, this is how we should do this. And I listened and I watched the way that they did things. And when you're community minded, number one, you either are or you aren't. And I am and always have been. And once you're community, like it may not work out for me financially, but there's bigger things than finances. I mean, we're here for a very short time and then we're gone. And so the community aspect, I just always got that. And then the great byproduct of building a solid, trustworthy reputation is, it all kind of like if you spend time and energy on certain boards or doing volunteer work, what I've found is it all comes back anyway. I mean, it comes back. I mean, and just don't expect it. Don't expect it. Don't look for it. I don't carry around business cards. I never have. And it all falls into place like it should.
Well, with injury law, I think more than maybe any other profession that I can think of, it really is that right time. And all you got to do is be top of mind because, it's not like you're selling bread on a street side stand. It really is at the right moment. Someone's going to need help with what you do. And all you got to do is be top of mind when the moment comes, right? That's the whole game as far as sales and marketing goes for an injury law practice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that that's true necessarily because I wish I would debate virtually any lawyer anywhere on how to practice personal injury law and what to do and what not to do. And I think if you were sitting there judging, I think I win that debate every single time. And I think you would walk away and go, this guy knows it way better than that guy, and this guy is the one that you would trust. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way where we get to sit down and talk about what we know and talk about who's the master of strategy and who you should pick. I wish it worked that way because I know I would win.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way necessarily. Really doesn't. And so you do have to do things to be top of mind. That's the reality of it. But nobody does it. In my mind, nobody does it as good as we do it. The strategy makes everything with the way we do the process. And it's important because you are taking people at their absolute worst moment. They are hurt.
Yep.
They are facing a situation where a family member has died. They have lost their job. Their doctors won't see them. That's the dirty little secret. These family doctors that you have for 20 years, you go and say, I just got in a bad crash and I need you to, and here's my health insurance. They won't see you. Mine wouldn't see me. They won't see you. And so you've got to take that person at their worst moment and you've got to handle everything else other than they just have to focus on getting better. We handle everything else. And then when they leave and they leave with a big check and they leave with a smile and they give you a hug and they write you an email or a text, it means everything. I mean, it will never not mean everything to me. It means absolutely everything, but I know what we can do as a firm. Like I know what we do.
You know, I've always felt kind of a camaraderie with specifically injury attorneys, and there's a few other versions of attorney where you really are that knight in shining armor when someone has a terrible circumstance. Because I mean, in our practice with risk and insurance, people don't get with us for the sunny day. People get with us for when that terrible day comes along. And I feel like with injury law, with commercial insurance, like it's very similar in that, it's kind of like, a medical doctor or other people. You don't get to show yourself when they pick you. You show yourself on the worst day of their year, maybe their life, when there's a traumatic weather event, when there's a bad car accident, when there's, an employee gets hurt, or they have a lawsuit come out of nowhere that they weren't expecting. So there's a lot of camaraderie between folks like us. It's not very often that I get to sit across from someone who regularly works with people on their worst day.
Yeah.
So solidarity, brother.
And besides knowing your stuff, like one big differentiator that's so easy to do is be uber responsive.
Yep.
And that's always been my calling card. It's like, I may not be the smartest guy in the room. Maybe, hopefully I am, but I may not be.
Yep.
But I will be the most responsive. Like you're going to get a real person. You're going to get the real deal. You're going to get somebody who will work all night long. Nobody's going to outwork me, but I will be responsive. You're not going to be wondering where Burress is. You're not going to be chasing us. That is important to me too. And I'm sure you feel that same way that you got to be proactive and responsive.
Well, and the message that we preach here is in the age of AI, and AI seems like it's everywhere now, absolutely everywhere. You can't turn on the TV or see an ad on your internet browser without somebody's pitching some AI thing. And it's like, folks, the more responsive, the more present we are, the better it's going to be, because AI will never replace a human. The human-to-human connection, you just can't replace it. It can feel a certain way with AI, sends an automated response when something happens, it triggers this little thing. But a human responding and helping another human, there's no replacement for that. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Rook.
Sure.
How did that come about? Because that is one of one. There's not really anything else like the Rook in McKinney.
That's actually what I call it. I call it the one of one. Like sometimes you'll see a social media post and it'll say the one of one, this is a one of one experience. That is actually how I refer to it. It started a long time ago. I was very involved in music in college, played, Devil's Backbone, played Green Hall, played Lukenbach. I mean, wasn't the most talented musician, but still played.
What'd you play?
Guitar and sang.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you and George have something else in common.
Yeah. Well, he's way better at it than me, but he would probably say I'm a much better singer, but he's a much, much, much better guitar player.
He's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I love listening to him play.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic. So music was important to me. And Willie is super important to me. I love Willie Nelson. I've seen him over 100 times.
Wow.
I've been on the bus a bunch of times. I mean, it's just like I had the number to the bus back in the 90s. I mean, it's just like we were friends. He actually lived in Paris for a little while. Nobody knows that, but worked on the railroad. But all that culminated to I knew if I could ever put the right building down, then we would have this space where me and my buddies, my friends, could come and we could share community together. We could share a coffee together. I've always had a coffee group, so having a Friday morning coffee group is a big deal. And then music. I wanted to be able to have a place where we could have a little stage and have an intimate music experience with really high quality acoustics. So 2019 is when we started doing the plans for that building. And so it was, way back then it was considered, but I had been thinking of it all along.
So you have this new building and you're building it for the firm, but then you also make space and then the upstairs for the Rook. Was that all along? That was part of your master plan to
all along
have it be under one roof?
Yep. All along. Yep.
Wow. I love that. So for those that aren't familiar, what's the best way to investigate the Rook? And, Is it an invite only? Is it exclusive? Can someone sign up because they want to be in the cool kids club? How's that work?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's really not. I wouldn't say it's a cool people's club or anything. I mean, we've got a couple of nerds in there. Like they would even tell you, like, I'm a nerd, and it's great. It's great. We've got police officers, firemen. We've got a college president. We've got a whole big. It's not pretentious at all. I would say it's exclusive, but it's not.
I asked that question as someone who has admittedly never been one of the cool kids ever.
Yeah, it's not. I just don't. I don't look at it like that. I think. I'm thinking about certain people right now that if we was a cool club, we definitely would have said no. But I like different people. I like different kinds of people, and have always gotten along with a wide swath of people. You don't have to be a football or baseball jock to join our community. Just be community minded. But yeah, the rookmckinney.com is the website. But there are certain shows that the bigger shows, certain shows that you can buy a ticket to. But if you want to come check it out, you would just send us an email at info@therookmckinney.com and say, I would love to come check that out. And then you'll come and see it and see how it works. And it's great. I mean,
it's the most bizarre thing. Some of the names that you've got, and I know the kind of venues that these, mostly, folk music and Texas country and whatnot, like a lot of those folks, I'm just like, how in the world did Burress get them? And you see like a legitimate 56-foot tour bus in your parking lot, and this big name artist is playing for 50 people at the Rook. It's just like, goodness, that is wild.
Yeah, the most we can hold is 130, including the patio. But if we don't do the patio, then it's 110. And usually I like to be at like 105. Mm-hmm. That feels good to me. But yeah, Mark Chestnut, Chris Knight opened it, Pat Green, Wade Bowen, Kevin Fowler. We have a top 5 clean comedian in the country coming on April 30th, Dusty Slay. He'll be playing the Majestic in front of 1,701 persons the next day, but he'll be playing for 100 or performing for 100 the day before on Thursday, April 30th. I mean, it's just, it's there's a way to do it. It's very difficult to do, but it's all about creating relationships.
I very nearly signed up about a year ago, and I'm regretting not doing it. My reason for not doing it was we have young kids, and I don't want to burden my in-laws with more childcare requests because they're so attentive anyways. But, as we progress into the rest of this year, I'm probably signing up, but for no other reason than I'm going to show up to some of the networking stuff and occasionally, be able to get away with the wife and go to a concert or something. But the attraction is undeniable. Like for anybody who enjoys a curated special experience, like I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to be a part of the Rook. So
wine and dinner pairings. Like we have coming up, it's one night and we have the Kentucky Derby party where you get to wear your fancy hats and all that good stuff. And then we end with one of our own members who has the best Eagles tribute band. And then they're going to perform. We have all these talented musicians in the membership. It's really crazy. Like I don't even have to have anybody else come in. I could just have members perform if I wanted to, because the talent is insane. But like that night, you look at that night and you go, oh man, that's fun. Dusty Slay, comedians. We do comedians every now and then, but I like the pairings that we do. But then we've got like the Rook Preferred Circle. So it's not a networking guide where you just sign up and you have, it's curated, it's reviewed, it's audited. We have to meet with you. We actually lost one member because they didn't make the inaugural list, which I think is the silliest thing because I didn't know them well enough. We didn't know them well enough. We didn't know enough about their business. But that list is growing, and one of our electricians that's in the membership texted me and said, I just got a whole home remodel job because of the Rook Preferred Circle. Huh. And how great is that?
Well, shoot. I mean, if I didn't have enough reasons to sign up, the business owner in me just went, ooh.
It's an awesome curated network group that we're building over time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have an email from me later today then.
All right, let's
I had
go.
no idea that was part of it. Good
Let's
Lord.
go.
Now I'm feeling even more dumb for not signing up a year
You should.
ago.
Yeah, you should. You would be a great fit.
No, that's very kind of you. As we kind of start to end the episode, I want to know, why McKinney? You mentioned earlier when you were talking with Kyle about leaving the firm and starting your own thing that you had handpicked McKinney. You came from Paris, so I'm guessing you have been through McKinney or been around it at some point in the past. What was it about McKinney that made you want to plant your flag and build a life here?
I was familiar with it. I had introduced one of my really good friends to his wife and at a church group at Highland Park United Methodist Church. So I used to take a group down to Green Hall and New Braunfels Green every year and took them down, bands playing, and I noticed that Grant and Laura kept dancing. And so then they moved to McKinney. I would come visit. My buddy Rob Bice moved here as well. He was from Highland Park United Methodist Church as well. And so two of my really great friends were here. I was engaged at the time, and I was sort of looking, and then my grandmother was back home. My mom was back home. Her parents were back home. So I was sort of looking for, hey, what's a spot sort of in between Dallas and Paris? And so that was McKinney. So I built my home, finished it in 2003, worked in Dallas 5 more years, but I always knew I was going to be here and start my firm. It was just getting the experience to do it.
I figured Paris definitely had something to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less than an hour and a half from here, right?
Yeah, it's really like 70 minutes.
Okay.
It's 70 minutes. And then if I could just get one more quick story out there, because I think it's one of the most important things that we do, and it gets the least amount of love. It was always, I promised my grandmother in 2000 or 2001, I said, if things go like I think they're going to go, one of these days I'm going to start a scholarship and I'm going to put it into your name.
Yeah.
And ultimately, once we got the law firm going, in 2009 was our first charity picnic, and it benefited a nonprofit. So we started with nonprofits. We ultimately have done scholarships starting in 2022. But that picnic was from, of course, it was from the Willie picnic. It was just a family-friendly version. So AJ and Taylor printed this, I think I've got it. They printed this for me. I guess that we're doing for Serve McKinney, but I don't know if you can see this, but that's what we've done.
I'm going to just put this over here for camera.
And what's really cool about it is it's never had any operational costs associated with it. The law firm pays 100% of the operating costs. The law firm pays 100% of the salaries associated with it. Any donation or sponsorship that ever comes in, 100% goes to the nonprofit or the scholarship, and then the law firm matches it dollar for dollar. Like, you go find me the nonprofit that does that, where nothing is netted out and your donation is doubled. And I'll buy you a beer if you can find it. But I'm super proud of the way we do it. Doesn't mean that foundations that can't do that aren't good, because not everybody, I mean, it's a hell of an engine to have behind it with Burress Injury Law. But be that as it may, I'm really proud of what we've done. It's in honor of our grandparents. Yeah. Specifically my grandparents.
Most foundations have specific areas that they kind of focus on as far as gifting and resourcing and whatnot. Are there specific causes or areas of interest that you kind of focus your efforts on with the foundation?
The best nonprofits, first responder initiatives, and higher education scholarships, but not the master's and doctorate level, the bachelor's level. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Increasing accessibility for kids that may not otherwise be able to go to, trade school or vocational or 4-year degree or whatever.
Right. We also do gifts to schools, like the high schools. Like, we've sponsored the fishing team in Salina, the cheerleaders in Salina, the cheerleaders in McKinney. We just did one at the Rook for the cheerleaders at McKinney High. Those kids can't afford. There's people on the team, kids on the team that cannot afford the gear to do it.
Yeah.
And so we step in, give them $2,600 or whatever it was, and then that bridges that gap for them. So we're really getting into the high school level now. Mm-hmm. I know we're paying half, I think $100,000 to pave the parking lot for the kids at McKinney Christian Academy. They don't have a paved parking lot. It's super unsafe.
Yeah.
Cars and pedestrians are interacting. And so especially if it has a safety component, it works really well for us. But that's what we're doing. We're going to, we're about to cross the $1 million mark. And then we're going to do 500,000 scholarships by 2030. That's the goal that we'll meet.
It is a small world, man. Heath is going to be here this afternoon.
Awesome.
So what's your connection to MCA?
So my law partner's kids, oldest daughter, well, his only daughter, has gone to MCA for at least 6 years. Her name's Aubrey. She just got a scholarship to play volleyball at Austin College, so we're happy about that. My girls started there this year. I think Luke will probably stay in the McKinney ISD. He thrives there. The girls go to MCA, so we just got plugged in. But we were plugged in and already helping before because of Kyle's involvement. So now we're just a little more involved.
Love it.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, no, I came away from a couple of conversations last year realizing, because we've done so much with the ISD, we've had Sean Pratt, we've had, valedictorians, we've had city, not city council. We have had city council, but school board, sorry, Ken Ussery and Corey Homer and whatnot. And it occurred to me, it's like, wait a second, we're missing MCA. Like they're here too. Yeah. So, finally getting around to having him on, and that should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, great school.
The civic engagement side of things, what have you done there as far as like the city? Boards and commissions, you done anything there? You ever thought about running for office, city council or mayor or whatever? Yeah. Your resume is a mile long. I have to think you've at least considered it.
Yeah. So, this is probably a story you didn't hear, but I was going to run for mayor and specifically asked Bill Cox if he would do it. But I was going to do it. There's an exploratory campaign page that was up, and I didn't want to do it. It wasn't anything that I've been called to do.
Sure. But
with who had announced that they were running, that was a problem. And so I was going to do it because my understanding was Cox wasn't going to do it. So I agreed to do it, put it together, had everything in place. The website was about to go live, and I have 3 kids that are, 13, 11, and 8. And so it had been a year before that. So a year younger.
Yep.
I remember going to baseball. I called him and asked him if he would do it, and called him again. And then he called me when I was on my way to baseball again, and he said he would do it. And I remember thinking, thank goodness.
Yep.
But I served on the MCDC for 4 years. I was vice chair. And George was chair when I was vice chair. And then served on MEDC for 4 years and chaired it for 3. Yep. I think I'm the only 3-time chair that I'm aware of. Never lost a vote in the first 3 years, and felt like I didn't win a vote after that, and that really bothered me because the organization was making mistakes. And one of the giant mistakes was hiring Peter Tokar over Chad, and I was a Chad guy, and I think ultimately time has completely vindicated me, and nobody speaks Peter's name, and Chad's one of the great guys, and you lost him, and we lost him in the city of McKinney, and he would have been a terrific EDC president. So those are things I take very personally, and I really it was a badge of honor to never to lose a vote. And then, but the bookend of it is we had Robbie Clark and I had trouble winning a vote in that last year. And so it was tough.
So it's got to be validating for you now to see Mike Kowski doing what he's doing and just being such an effective leader and overseeing that growth.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of share your opinion on Mr. Tokar. I was not sad to see him go. It was a little bit of ineffective leadership there. So it's so nice to see things moving strongly in a positive direction. I had heard the stories about you and Mayor and Bill Cox and whatnot. I haven't heard them straight from you though. So you know how it goes with, side conversations and rumors of how accurate they may or may not be. So,
and that's not to say that I'm not saying that Bill Cox ran for mayor because I asked him to. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh no, I would never assume
that.
But
it's not a secret that he was not looking to run for mayor at that time. And so
he had to be convinced.
Yeah. And I did ask him specifically to do it. And I'm glad that he did do it.
So when your kids are older and you have a little bit more time on your hands, what you're saying is there's a chance we might see your name on the ballot in the future.
There's absolutely zero chance. It was that was a one and done, and it was a need based, not because I wanted to. I have no interest in doing that. You will never see me run for council. You will never see me run for mayor.
Wow.
Never. It'll never happen.
That is about as emphatic as you could possibly be. So there you go.
I give you my word.
Well, your word is worth quite a bit, I would imagine, after this conversation. Is there anything else we haven't touched on that you wanted to get into?
I just like to say that I appreciate the time, and because it gets less love, it's burrescommunityfoundation.org.
Yep.
I'd love for people to check it out and just help us help more people directly. I think we do a wonderful job. And again, it's been an honor to be on your show. I think it's been a great conversation, an easy conversation to have, which is also very appreciated.
Yeah, Unfortunately, I've had a lot of practice. This is the 300 and something podcast episodes. It started out in the insurance world, but we've almost 100 episodes on the McKinney Podcast. It's pretty exciting to think about. We always end with the same question. So here we go. Who would win in a fight between a 12-foot tall polar bear and a great white shark? The fight occurs in a body of water with no edges. You can't get out of the pool, but the pool is only 6 feet deep. Who wins, polar bear or shark?
Oh, your shark's going to win that. Your shark's going to win that easily because the 6 feet's plenty of room for the shark to operate. That's not a contest. That's a first-round knockout.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. That's an emphatic answer from a trial attorney, not a litigator.
And a great, legitimate question, too. I mean, this could happen.
Yeah. It may. I'm sure there's some zoologist somewhere that's saying that can't possibly happen. They don't live in the same regions, but I don't know.
I mean, don't be president of the No Fun League. I like those kind of hypotheticals.
Me too. Man, this has been just a wonderful conversation, Jason. Thank you so much for being here. And folks, if you want to check out any of those links that he mentioned, they are in the show notes and the description if you're watching on YouTube. This has been another episode of the McKinney Podcast. Make it a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all take care. Thanks again for listening to and watching the McKinney Podcast. We drop a brand new episode every Monday morning. We'd love to connect with you and hear your thoughts, suggestions, and guest recommendations. You can message us on Facebook or send an email to us at mail@mckinneypodcast.com. This entire production is a passion project for James and Fred and our lovely wives, Elizabeth and Allison. We're so grateful to have you along for the journey. We look forward to seeing you again next week and hopefully in person around town. That's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Make it a great day.